another moment in our dauntless journey towards Dasein, a moment to consider Dasein as a rolling tide. It rolls in towards the beings that are to show themselves from themselves. If we approach something like captivation, leaving words behind, then what we do is, unlike the Greeks, we don't talk about the beings. Instead, we let them be Dasein. So if you undergo the exercise of trying to let something show itself from itself, letting yourself sense the play of something, some being, then is it so that we sense that moment where Heidegger is saying, although every being is housed by a word, there is that moment of captivation. Captivation is how he describes the animal's world. But as humans, we perhaps never have, or rarely have, this kind of cataleptic, pure captivation, but we have something approaching it that's only just doused with something like presence. And then you come back from it and you see the being not as it's showing itself from itself, but from our outlook. If one can sense this difference, our outlook sort of, we're hand in hand, putting the thing to hand, but then what would be then the being as it shows itself from itself, where it's no longer about us at all, but it's about the being showing itself from itself. Then that's a confusing way to state it, because the Vorhandenheit is usually juxtaposed with Zuhandenheit. Or do I have that backwards? Zuhandenheit, two hand, ready to hand, Vorhandenheit, present to hand, right? So yeah, it is the, sorry about that. It is the, that we're going from a being, really letting it show from itself, and then kind of sensing it as something available to us. So I suppose when we're in the Dasein, letting the being be the axis mundi, as it were, and really make a being out of itself, show its the light rays of its own being, it on its own ground, then we're as far from, I suppose, the certain presence, this absolutely having the being for the calculative essence. So I think that's something one can test in the same way. It's by trying to go through the exercise and thinking it over, and then one can ask, it's clear how such a going to the being is quite different from what's happening in the Greeks and Plato or Aristotle, right? Because they're really talking about the beings. They're not. They take up the being as a kind of thing, as an eidos or an idea, and what they're really interested in is talking about what it is, and then thinking about all its characteristics according to a certain schema. Whether the categories, degree categories, are totally to be thrown out is another long story. And so I'll try to go towards that. I had some ideas about the juxtaposition of China and Heidegger, but I wanted to go more back to trying to clarify the history of Western metaphysics and show how Heidegger is different from the Greeks, from the medievals, from the German idealists. All right, so we'll see what we can do going forward.